Oh, there she is. There she is. Hello and welcome back to Dan's Timeless Classics. I've been away for a bit on here. I haven't been anywhere, but I just haven't been on YouTube for a while. Mainly because I wouldn't say I fell out of love with it, but I just was too busy with the cars, and I do Instagram quite a lot, and it's very easy and quick to upload something on Instagram without editing, without messing around. Just bung up a story or, bung up a picture and talk about it and stuff like that. And I found that it's quick engagement in there, and I just kind of like that. So I've really kind of focused on that. This video is like an update of everything in my life for YouTube people, people that haven't watched me for ages. And I think if you look on my videos now, you'll see that the last video done was carbon fiber roof on DTC. 3-stage video. Was that 18 months ago, 2 years ago? It's a while ago. That's not DTC, by the way. There's been cars come and go. We've had a BTC since then, planned BTC. So this video really is an update on me, on DTC more, because a lot of people that were following me are interested in that car and that journey. So I won't talk about this really, the new car, the White Peril. That can come in a future video. But today we're going to talk about DTC, which is, Dan's Timeless Classics. That's where it all started. And my Project 996 Road to Race car. Is that be right saying? I suppose that's where the journey started. My first YouTube video in 21, where we got that car home, and we were talking about whether you could get 10% more power, 10% less weight, and make a fast road stroke track car, which I did. I achieved. I never got the power, but I did get the weight down dramatically, in fact, because that car was heavy, 1440 kilos, which was really heavy for a 996, but it had a lot of additional options and it had a lot of extras. And yeah, it was a bit on the heavy side. It didn't help that I didn't realise the carpets were soddened with water. There's probably 25-30 kilos of water in there. But they're all things that we've learned as we went along. And then the car really then developed in, as far as YouTube's concerned. You saw the carbon roof going on, so the car got to a point where it was ready to race. It weighed in at 1,220 kilos, which was a massive win, over 200 kilos weight saving off the car, and it was awesome. Had a really good 2020 season in that car. I had a 23 and a 22 season in the car as well, but mainly with all the lightweight stripped out was 2024, and it made it on track about June, I think, of that year. And the whole back end of that year, I did like loads of stuff. I did Goodwood. I went and done the Euro trip and done Nürburgring. They wouldn't let me out on the Nürburgring because of my seats. For those of you on Instagram, you'll know that. But we did Spa all day at Spa. We did some other UK tracks as well. And it was just awesome. It was absolutely awesome. And then as we came into 2025 season, again, Instagram people will already know this. YouTube people may not know this. The first track they booked was Goodwood for May, I believe. And it was this time last year, April time, that we went to Snetterton. New circuit to me, not done Snetterton before. Quite far away. It's up in like sort of Great Yarmouth, so it's a good 4-hour drive from here. And Norfolk way, yeah, up that sort of way. Ipswich, past Ipswich, definitely went past Ipswich. And yeah, we went to Snetterton, quite a big group of us. And yeah, DTC at that point was running good, all was running well. And then unfortunately the inevitable happened. And I knew I was on borrowed time with that engine because it had done 130,000 miles. It was 28 years old. And at that point, that was probably about my 14th or 15th track event that I've done in that car, right from the early days of when I first was tracking it. Right the way up to that event, including Spa, which Spa I did suffer oil starvation, and I heard the oil starvation. Now people say you don't really know, there's no real warning. Well, I did get a warning because the car's stripped, so you can hear more of the engine, what's going on. And I don't know the name of the corner, but it's one of the last sweeping rights at Spa, and you lean in. People say it's more if you're turning left. It doesn't matter, I don't think, with that speed. You're banking really hard, and then you turning into your right. You're almost over on the curb on the left, and you cut across, and you just slice the curb, and then it goes downhill like that, and then sweeps back around. And you're probably going through there over 100. I think around about somewhere between 110, 115, and you're sort of on it like that, banking, so that car is pitched over, and I heard what sounded like going over a rumble strip, a bit like cat's eyes. You know when you go over cat's eyes in a motorway, that, and I knew immediately that's not a noise you want to hear, because I knew I'm not on a curb. I'm not, there's no rumble strip on a racetrack. I haven't crossed over the curb, so it's nothing to do with that. That was from the engine. So I immediately sort of backed off when noise, you know, it was just a, and that was it. It didn't last long. So I immediately backed off, slowed down, finished the rest of that lap slowly, because I only had a few more corners, then you come up to the chicane, and that's where you can come off. So I came straight into the pits. The car was idling in the garage, turned it off. I mentioned the noise dispense and the guys, and I was like, I got this noise, like I was banking, I heard, and I was like, and somebody immediately looked at me and went, do you think that sounded like oil starvation? I went, could have been tappety, but there definitely was some sort of oil surge or problem of some sort there. So we agreed the best thing to do was to let the car cool down, check the oil level was good, and just top it up a bit more, you know, overfill it a bit if anything. So I let the oil calm down, cool down, the oil level was good, topped it up so I'm kind of at the max of where you want it to be oil wise in that car then, and I carried on the rest of the day. Never heard the noise again. Drove home, all the way home. I did always say that ever since Spa, that car felt like it had a sore throat. It's very hard to explain what I meant by that, but you know your car and you know your foot. These cars, they're really analog. They give you so much information that they talk to you. You feel the car, and if there's something not right, like a wheel bearing or a vibration, and you can feel a vibration in an armrest, you can feel it in a steering wheel because you're in that same position you've been 100 times. Whatever it is, there was something about that car, and I kept saying it feels like it's got a sore throat. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking like, I think I just stressed the bearing or something. And then obviously I had. But, you know, I was fine with that because I was always content with the fact that when that engine goes bang, it's new engine time or it's rebuild time. It's a progress, and you don't build and buy a race car and then worry about smashing it up or blowing it up. Because if you're going to worry about that, don't track it. Track is extreme on these cars. So if you're going to track these cars, especially if you're going to really commit on the track. It's different if you've got a road car like this and you're going to just go and do an afternoon session. You're going to go around at 8 tenths, 9 tenths and just push it a little bit more than the road and kind of learn your car a little bit. That's fine. But if you're going to track a car, and I'm talking tyre squealing, throwing it in like red mist, and like, you know, like you're trying to win Le Mans. If you're going to drive like that, which is, I must say, the most exciting, exhilarating thing you can do in a car on circuit. It's just a game changer compared to trying to drive fast on a B road or something like that. It is awesome. The adrenaline, it's just amazing. If you haven't done it, you should do. Everybody should track a car at one point, even if you don't go crazy. But if you're going to push a car like that, you know, going to start doing lap times and really trying to progress and stuff like that on circuit, learn circuits, you're going to break it. You are going to break something. You're going to break an engine. You're going to break suspension components. I mean, I've done drop links. I've done engine mounts. I've done wheels. I've done, obviously you do tyres and brakes. That's a given. But you're going to break things and you're going to spin off at some point. I've probably come off circuit 4, 5, 6 times. Luckily, touch wood, every time I've come off circuit, I've just span on grass and generally kept going. Many people are less fortunate. Not all circuits have lots of runoff. Goodwood, you know, I've spun at Goodwood 3 or 4 times and been spat off mostly to the inside where there's a bit of room around you. But you get spat off on the outside at Goodwood in the wrong place, you're hitting barriers. You know, you're breaking, you're damaging things on your car. You're coming home with a bent bit of metal. So, you know, you've got to be willing willing to do that. If you're going to track and race a car as a regular thing, you've got to be prepared for that. So yeah, so that was the inevitable. I was prepared for that. That is what was happening. I managed to get through the winter with the car, do a few meets. I did some videos for Design 911 where we actually did some donuts in that car and some drag racing and some crazy stuff, and it survived. It survived all of that. But it was obviously worn, and the scoring or whatever had been done, and there was something fundamentally in that bearing. I mean, I haven't opened the engine yet to confirm that, but I think it's inevitable what we've done. So we went to Snetterton. We got out in the morning. I wasn't having a great time in the morning. It's a technical track. I couldn't get to grips with it. I was on pretty new 4S's, which if anybody understands about those tyres, they're horrible until they're amazing, and then they're amazing, but they're generally horrible to get going with. I couldn't get the tyres right. I couldn't get the temps right. I just couldn't get the track. I didn't get the lines. I just wasn't really having a good time. And then John came in the car with me. John's great at, forensic John is great at slapping you around the ears, shall we say, and shouting at you and telling you. He's very clever, John. He's done all the tracks in the UK multiple times. He's got a lot of seat time. He knows the lines. And he will push you on. So he will push me on, give me the lines. And we went out and we had some really, really good sessions. When I was going around like a loser, just letting everybody pass me because I just wasn't sure and I just wanted to be on my own. The next minute we're going around hunting people down, like pick that car, right, get him, chase him, down there, brake there, cut there, locking up at the end of the straight into the chicane. We really pushed her. We did push her. We pushed her hard, and there's some real banking corners. We did 1 or 2 sessions like that. It was fine. And then on the outlap of the other session, we got one more session in. When you go, let's do one more, and it was coming up to lunch, so it was one more session before lunch. And it's always that one more. We were on the outlap, and as soon as we were on the outlap, first couple of corners banking hard, we got this awful vibration down the transmission tunnel. It felt like a drive shaft had come loose, and I'm thinking like, ooh, gearbox, wheel bearing, wheel rotational problem, because if you came off the gas, problem went away. Idling, no problem. So, but John was like, he didn't want to say, but he was thinking in his mind, deja vu. This is the exact same vibration he got come through his transmission tunnel just before his big end bearing went. So we came into the pits, checked all the drive shafts, checked all the wheel nuts, checked everything. Car was idling, running a dream, turned it off, started it, no problems. Oil pressure was good, everything was good, all the signs were good, temperature's good. John's like, don't want to say, but it was very similar to my big end bearing feeling. So I was like, oh, I don't really want to do that, but it is what it is, isn't it? So I thought I'd go out on a road test. So I went out on a road test around the area, and to drive it sensibly was fine. It was when you powered on that crank, we think, was then just getting that out of wobble, because the bearings are like shells, half shells in the bottom of the crank. And if that's worn or damaged, that crank can just get that tenth of a millimetre fractional difference that under load puts the vibration down the transmission as you squeeze on. So I got back to the pits, thought, oh, that's a no-go. Loaded up the car, just said, guys, I'm just going to go home. I'm just going to get onto the A11 because we drove there and it's a 4-hour drive home. And I'm just going to go home 50 mile an hour, 2,000 RPM, poodling. So that was the plan. Got onto the A11, 50 mile an hour, 60 mile an hour, 3-4 miles down the A11, and I can just suddenly hear dinga 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 Bollywood music, which is basically metal bearing. Obviously the bearing then has slipped, hasn't it? It's let go, and the bearing is jingling and rattling around. So I knew straight away, nosed the car straight towards the lay-by. Actually, as soon as the front of the car went into the lay-by, engined off, coasted into the lay-by, pulled over, and I knew then that was game over. Obviously there was nothing leaking or anything like that, so I called the recovery. They said, have you turned the car over, does it start, blah blah blah. So I put the key in, cranked it, it went and it locked. So of course that then is the bearing jamming or pushing the com rod or something, bending a rod. So yeah, we haven't looked inside the engine yet. That's something we will do. But at this stage, that was it. So that was a year ago to the month, to April. That was a year ago. So when I got back, I literally just put the car in storage, and just forgot about it. I had a lot of track stuff booked. I didn't want to just quit the year. So I went and bought a Boxster. I went and bought a 200,000 mile 2.7 Boxster that had an aero kit on it. Took the aero kit and the nice wheels off of it and sold them. Went to the storage and took my front bumper and headlights and seats and steering wheel out of the DTC. Put them all on the Boxster. Disconnected the ABS and the traction control. Put some 1060 oil on it. Put some sticky Boxster Cup wheels with sticky tyres on it and went tracking and had an awesome 2025 in the Boxster. And yeah, 2025 was great. Did all the track days. I just did it in a 200 horsepower Boxster instead of 280 horsepower 911, and I had just as much fun. And I learned a lot as well, because I learned how to carry speed, because those cars got no torque, got no low down torque. So if you're under 4,000 revs, they're flat, they're dead. So the whole point is they make you pedal them. You've got to pedal them and pedal them and pedal them. And then when you get them up there, they're alive and they're like, woo! And you just got to keep it on. So they teach you to carry more speed through the corner. And that whole mid-engine to rear engine, it's just a game changer. The difference, like you can trail brake a 911 into wood coat and things like that. You can't do that with the Boxster. I was going out doing all my lines the same, spinning me off track, because the weight pivot was different. It doesn't want to slide. It just wants to grip until you haven't got none, and then you're off. So it was really interesting, and I loved it. And it taught me lots of different stuff. It taught me how to carry more speed. It taught me how to keep in the revs up, like just loads of stuff. So I loved that, and everything was going well. It's coming up to the big Euro trip again, 2025, Spa and Nürburgring. This time I've got some new seats in the Boxster so that I haven't got the wing back, so that Nürburgring won't say no. And I'm buzzing, I can't wait to go. Everything's going great. And about 2 weeks before, we dropped the engine out of a breaker car, me and John, which is a donor engine. It's just over there out the shot. And that's going to be the engine I'm going to put into DTC. We'll talk about that in a minute. And bam, I woke up in the morning, put my pants on, and my L5 disc exploded, just like my big end bearing, straight into my sciatic nerve. So that was me out. Put me in a wheelchair. October 2025 was wheelchair time, and that went into November. By the time I got out of that wheelchair, I was on a walking stick like a 78-year-old man. And I'm like, done. Do you know what I mean? Like really, really scary. To lose your mobility like that was really frightening, and I didn't like it. I ain't gonna lie, I was really worried. But I am a positive person, so I'll always think I can beat everything and beat the system and I did. Simple as that, because I got good advice from my osteopath who inspected me, who advised me not to go down the lines of surgery and to try and do it the natural way with spinal decompression, physiotherapy, aquatherapy and rehabilitation. Most of those people said it's going to be, minimum 6 months, probably 12, 18 months recovery. Dedicated my life to it. And by the new year, I was walking better. And now, as I've got more into 2026, I'm getting more physically able, to the point now that I can drive a 911 manual again. I can drive a manual car again. A few months ago, I was still in an auto, just about driving, and 10-minute journey in a car was just nightmare. So I'm there. I'm still in recovery. I'm still recovering. I'm still not physically back to full strength. still can't go lifting 25, 30 kilo boxes up. That's going to be a long time. I've got to build up core strength and stuff for that. But I'm on the road to recovery, like my car that was poorly and broken. I'm on the road to recovery. And back to that point, now it's about the recovery of DTC. What's the plan? What we're going to do? I mentioned the engine, so let's talk about that now. So I got a donor engine. I got a whole nother aero car, 100 20,000 mile car that had an engine rebuild like 18,000 miles ago. Not by Hardtech or anybody well known like that, but by an engineering company. They did the big end bearing, that's the most important thing. They did all new shells, that's very important. Chains, guides, tensioners, all of that, that's really important. So that was all done. Bore score doesn't really exist in those cars, so they gave the bores a big tick bill of health, skimmed heads, bosh, put it back together, and it was running a dream. Had a few oil leaks, so when I bought the car it was covered in oil leaks, and it was quite worrying for a rebuilt engine. But me and John dropped the engine, and when we dropped the engine we then learned more about why it was oil leaking. The AOS was the biggest problem. It was bellowing out the AOS. There was oil coming out of everywhere there. That was coming out of one of the Vario cam view adjuster points. It had silicone put over the top of it, but someone's obviously pushed it in with a screwdriver and actually pierced it, so that's not good. So that was that, and it was leaking a little bit around the sump as well, where it wasn't quite sealed properly. So there was a few, 2 or 3 different leaks in different places that just made it all look worse, but actually fundamentally it was a good running engine. We oil dropped it, checked the oil was good. We did all the durometrics. John's got all the durometrics set up. We were confident that that engine was in good, healthy running order. So we dropped it out. And then that left me with a long block. So I don't want to break that engine open. It's a built engine. There's no point rebuilding a built engine again. You rebuild a non-built engine. This isn't the dream engine. This is a temporary engine financially. I've been hit quite hard financially with all of what's gone on with my medical health and things like that. So the dream 4-litre build is still up there in the clouds. That's not happening anytime soon, unfortunately. It will happen one day. Me and John will build a 4-litre Mega Monster engine ourselves, you know, using some companies, maybe with Slacker and Hardtech or somebody like that. But right now that's not happening. So we're going to, so 3.4 long block. You'll see a picture coming up on the screen now that was very, very dirty and covered in oil. So the first thing we did was we got a good friend of mine, Steve at Cryogen. We got Steve at Cryogen and the team to come around and ice blast the engine. So check this out. So that was it. It's still wet, so you can't really see how clean it is. Trust me, it is a lot cleaner than it was. All the deep black thick stuff goes. Now that's dry, it's dry like that. So as you see, they've done a fantastic job of the engine. Looks really good. Well pleased with it, and the engine is in here now, all clean, ready to start bolting new parts on. And then we can see DTC, because today we had a delivery, which is DTC. Dom Roberts, good buddy Dom, has been to the storage department this morning, pulled out DTC and brought it back to us. So it is here, and it will be in this garage. Ooh, so the new car can come out, which I say we'll talk about the new car another day. There's loads to talk about this car. This car's unbelievable. You've probably seen it all over the Forensic Detailing channel, but if you haven't yet seen it on Forensic Detailing channel, do check out John's channel, Forensic Detailing, and his backup channel as well, because some of the stuff of this car is on there. But yeah, that's a whole nother story for another day about that monster. Let's get back to DTC. Check out the engine and what we're going to do. So there she is. There she is. And some of you might know what this is just from the box. You might actually know what that is just from the box. But let me just turn the camera away and put that over there for the moment. Right. There she is. Dun, dun, dun. So that is an M96.1 or whatever, the early 1998 long block. It's called a long block because it has the main central block, which contains an inner block with your crankshaft and your IMS and everything, and then the heads are attached, so we call it a long block rather than a short block, which would just be that part. So the fact that it's a long block means that it is essentially built there as an engine. What you now need to do is bolt on manifolds, intake systems, and all the accessories and gumps that go with it to make it a complete engine. Now that's where you start to think about modifications. What can you do to this engine to make it stronger, faster, better on track, more reliable? Well, First thing you've got to address is of some of the potential problems that can actually break these engines. So although I'm not a big believer of IMS failure on these cars, they are still 30 years old, these engines, and there is a Porsche upgrade IMS bearing, which this engine already has. So that is the official Porsche upgrade dual row IMS bearing. So we don't need to do that. That's a massive thumbs up. Otherwise, if that was the original, I would have changed it for that one, because it would be 30 years old, so you'd be mad not to. One thing that a thing that's very common for failure on these is this. This is your rear main seal, your RMS. You must have heard of that. If they leak, you get constant leaks here all around the bottom of the gearbox. That's been done, and it's a genuine Porsche one. And as soon as although this has been cleaned, when we took this out, it was clean like that anyway, which is telling us that is good. That doesn't leak. Fantastic. So that's two jobs, two big jobs that we don't need to do on this engine. So that's awesome. The next things here that are common to fail on this car are the AOS, which sits here, the air oil separator. Now on this car, if you look at the amount of dirt that's in there still, where we couldn't quite get in there with a blaster, that was absolutely black around there. So that had already failed. So we need a new AOS. If I can afford it, I would like the motorsport one, but they're a lot of money. So I'd be fairly happy just to have an OEM brand new normal one. Because like I say, this is not the dream engine. If I can get 2 or 3 years out of this engine, I'll be over the moon. Oil cooler sits here. I wouldn't put on the original oil cooler, which is over here. I wouldn't then refit that because, again, because of the age, you can get intermix. See how that one side is coolant, one side is oil. So let's put a brand new one of those on. Oil pressure switch, may as well do a new one of those while you're there. And any of the seals for anything that go on, again, new. Just do new. Makes sense. Why would you put old on there if you can do new ones? These are the caps for the viewing points for the top of the crankshaft. And as you'll see, that one is split. So that needs to be changed as well, because that was leaking oil. The actual heads themselves are very clean. Normally, if you get a 30-year-old engine and you look in there, that will be black, absolutely black. And that's because it's coked up with carbon. Because this engine in theory has only done 18,000 miles since the rebuild, it's all nice and clean in there. So one of the mods that I'm very tempted to do on this, because they do it on GT3s, and I'm going to have a go on this. You block this up and you port and polish this. So, and we're not talking about massively here. I'm talking about 1/4 mil, 1/2 mil off of this edge. And it's very rough, the casting in here. I don't know if you can see that. It's very rough. Now, you don't want it all super smooth, because sometimes too much smoothness can be a negative thing. You do want a little bit of what they call it, broken air, distilled air. But when you've got edges like that line there, just sand that out. Just fade these out. So just smooth these out a bit. Probably port them no more than 1/2 mil, just to make them a bit more better flow. That's pretty much what you're going to gain. And the idea of that is because I want to modify the intake spider. So this is an intake spider. You've got a throttle body, you've got the resonator delete, you've got the chamber that it goes into, and then all the plastic tubes. Now, X51 is a motorsport option, which is an aluminium stacked manifold. I've got myself a 997 3.8 one, which is about 1/2 millimeter bigger on each port, but believe it or not, it sits in there pretty much correctly. In fact, out of the 6 fixings, 4 of them line up, only 2 of them don't, and the 2 that don't actually line up there and there, so I can drill there and there to mount them, so I can actually mount them on there. I think with a bit of porting, a bit of polishing, and that setup, it's got a bigger chamber at the top, they're slightly enlarged tubes, resonator tube, and then on the front of it, I'm going to fit this. This is a 996 Cup GT3 Cup car throttle body. Again, I'm going to port and polish it in there, smooth it all out. It's already been bored out there, so it's about 80 millimeter throttle body now. And the reason why I'm going to do these mods is because this is what's been done to this car. And this car is a proof in the pudding that if you do it all right, if you do the right stuff on there, you can gain power out of these M96s. But you've got to do all of it, and you've got to do it right. No good putting an airbox on, or a throttle body, or a plenum, or an exhaust, or you've got to do all of it, and you've got to map it, and then you've got to get the fuel there. You've got to do everything, and then it combined together with the right mapping guy, then you get the results that you were looking for. Doing just that on its own, yeah, you might get a bit more responsive or a bit more noise. Doing that on its own might make it louder, but if you want power, you've got to do everything, and you've got to map it to suit, and you've got to make sure you've got the fuel and you've got the air. Otherwise, all of that is irrelevant. So that's the plan, and me and John have learnt that. So in the box, if you didn't already guess, that is a deeper baffled racing sump by the boys at FVD in Germany. So that's going to go on the bottom, because it's very important what I've said to you, what happened to me about oil starvation. There's ways to avoid it. Deeper baffled sump will help. Thicker oil. Screw on air filter system, oil filter system. So instead of the plastic filters that have like a paper element, use metal filters, and you're less likely to get air blocks or anything like that, or oil starvation with these. And you have to buy an adapter that goes onto the block that these screw into. So these are really cheap, but the adapters have to come from LN in America, and they're not cheap. So that's another plan. Again, I learnt this from this car. So basically this car is a 3.7 X-Race monster. And like I say, I'll talk about it another day. And all the mods on that, I'm going to copy and replicate onto that, including X51 manifolds. Now, I couldn't get a set of X51 Porsche Motorsport manifolds for a 996. So I've got 996.2 GT3 Metzger ones. So they're bigger bore, they're lighter, but they don't fit. So hopefully my boy Brad at Forward Creations is going to take off that mounting, that bracket, and basically re-engineer it with the standard M96 flange to convert these to fit onto that block. That's the plan. You can always have a plan that goes wrong, but that is the plan. So we're going to get X51, well, I'm going to make my own X51 intake, X51 outtake. Then the next thing you need is to relieve some stress off the engine. So an engine, there's a couple of things you can do here. The stress on these blocks, not stress, but pressure, is the belt. The belt runs all the way around the outside of these. Massive belts on these cars, if you understand them and know them. And that is because you've got an alternator, you've got a water pump, you've got an air conditioning, massive great big air conditioning pump, and you've got a power steering pump. So that's why the belt has to travel round. That crank pulley, you can reduce 25-30% of the pull on that by removing the air conditioning system, like this car, and actually removing the power steering system as well. So taking the power steering off of the engine and putting it somewhere else so that the engine's not straining. And the answer for that is that. That, my friends, is a Servotronic power steering pump. So it's hydraulic in the sense that if you connect that to your power steering pump, it will work. It will hydraulically operate the steering. But if you wire them up, it will add, there's a motor in there, it will add electrical assistance. You can even put that into a speed control unit and actually be able to increase or decrease the amount of power steering in what you got. This is what all the drift boys use. It's what all the race boys do. It's a reconditioned system by TRW. Actually a common pump found in Vauxhalls and many other cars, but all modified and adapted for the motorsport world. So that will go into the front, which also puts the weight, you know, because that weighs a few kilos, over the front axle, taking all them pipes out and all that pump system off the back, saving another 5, 6, 7 kilo off the back of the car. And that's the place where it's hard to get weight off these cars, as we know. AC delete, don't need AC on a race car, just open the window or just keep going. AC delete will save weight And again, it's probably about 10, 12 kilos with gas, because you've got rads in there, you've got all the pipes and flanges, it runs all the way down with a return pipe, all up into there. So that's weight saving as well. So we reckon we can get some more weight off the car. Obviously new plugs, you do all the stems as well, spark plug tubes. You renew everything. So you end up with a refreshed engine to start with, and then all of these little mods that would hopefully help get us some more horsepower. So that's the plan for the block. And then once that's done, we put it all together and we drop her in. Now let's talk about the car and look around DTC. Now it's back. She's just outside there, so let's go and have a look. Oh, there she is. There she is. She's back. She's still dirty from Snetterton. I didn't even wash it. How bad am I? Didn't even wash it. So you'll see it's got a few bits missing. Still on its wet weather wheel setup, which is Michelin PS4S's on the Oz Allegrettas. And they're like new, those tyres. I was only just getting to terms with those. They've only done one track day. But yeah, there she is. Like you say, missing a few parts. The seats, the headlights, the bumper were all on the Boxster race car. But I do have all those parts still, because those parts were taken off of the Boxster before I sold it, and I put different seats and that in it. So on the body, she was 12, 20 kilos as she was, but we've got a new mega brake setup to go on here with rotor discs, titanium stud conversion. We've got plastic windows to go inside. Gen 2 black rear bumper, because I want to do a more aggressive rear bumper in black. So it'll run front and rear black bumpers. So I'm still going to keep the monochrome black and silver look. Probably going to take the decals off this year for these ones, only because I've run them. Toyo will come off the window because it's not running on Toyos. I think we've got Yokohama AD08s and PS4S's. So yeah, we're going to lighten her up a little bit more. We're going to see, with all that aircon delete, power steering delete, and the mods that I just mentioned, the lighter weight brakes and things like that, we're going to see if we can get her under 1200 kilos. I think we can get down to about 1180, 1190. Going to finally paint the cage and get some proper bolts for it. It's still got the this is a custom cage made by Brad at Forward Creation, the legend that he is. He does all my fabrication, so exhaust work, everything, the cage. I'm going to pretty that cage up a bit, because we always left it a bit scruffy, and it's such a mega cage. So I'm going to get some nice aero flush bolts for it and actually paint the cage. Obviously put a raised steering wheel back on it, pretty much leave everything else the same inside, just those bits. Just see if we can get a bit more additional weight out. Lighter weight seat frames. Yeah, I always moaned that my seat frames were too heavy, and they were sliding. I don't need sliding seats on this car. It's one position I sit in, so it's not going to be a road car anymore. It's just a race car. So I'll make the seats fixed and drill out the frames, so that will save some weight as well. So yes, sub 1200 kilos. I think with the mods that we're doing on the engine, we will get over 300 horsepower. She was 286 horsepower at 5,500 RPM. So it made its power quite early, and that was because of the exhaust system we created for it. My plan now is to try and get it over 300 horsepower at the full 7,000 RPM or thereabouts, and basically get it under 1,200 kilos. So we end up with another. So then we end up really where we originally wanted to be, about 10% more power, but we're kind of more like 15, 17% less weight. And I think combined, I'm going to see if I can get this car around Goodwood in sub 90 seconds. Now, a sub 90 seconds lap around Goodwood is pretty good going. Most of the people that are doing them times are in 500 horsepower cars. Most of them are in either turbocharged cars or GT cars, lightweight stuff. There's not lots of cars out there breaking the 90-second barrier. You go to the average day at Goodwood and stand there filming them. Some of these guys in GT3s and GT4s aren't even doing it. But the guys that can drive in those cars certainly are. You know, the really good guys are out there in 125s, 26s, 24s. John, for example, is 125.8 in his Oh, what's he in? That was in his BMW M4 CS. I mean, these cars can't compete with that sort of power. But I think, so I reckon I was close to 133s in this car. I can do 134s all day till the cows come home. And I did pretty much do a 133, and that was on rubbish tyres. They were completely destroyed Toyo 88Rs. They were at the end of their life. In fact, the track day after that the tyres failed, so that's how bad they were. So we believe if I had the right tyres, I would have got down to like 131s, 132s as we were. I think I've certainly learnt a bit more to carry a bit more speed and drive a bit better. That I've probably got another second in me. I think there may have been another 1 or 2 seconds in the tyres, and that would have put us right on the cusp of, I don't know, 131. So, you know, we're close, but we're just no cigar. We just need a few more miles per hour. Like this car, I can pedal this car flat through Ford water, absolutely pushing that pedal through the floor like I want to brake it, but it'll only deliver about 125 mile an hour through there. And these guys sub 90 seconds are probably doing 130 through there. And I know that's only 5 mile an hour, but it makes a massive difference. So I think another 20-25 horsepower, another 20-30 kilos off, that'll be the difference. That'll be the difference. I'll obviously have to be on my A game. Tyres will have to be on their A game. But I think that combined, if I can get 305, 310, 315 horsepower out of that new engine, if I can get that car under 1200 kilos and I can get my head right, I can get that round Goodwood in sub 90 seconds. For a naturally aspirated 30-year-old car, that's good going, especially without mega horsepower, because let's be honest, 300 horsepower is not a lot of horsepower these days. Renault Clio's have got that. That's the car, that's the plan. Watch us do it. Stay tuned. Remember, like and subscribe, and I might do some more videos. Hey, if not.